As David was saying, and as I think most of you know, I've written a novel called Revival. We put a folk music novel right on the cover, so as I wouldn't have any worries about sneaking into a treacherous tax bracket with it. And I'm sort of touring. The first time in over 20 years I've been out on a tour and sharing some of the readings with them, which feel very much like songs to me when I perform them. So let me start with one, give you kind of an idea. It's a love story about two very different folk musicians, folk singer-songwriters, who meet at an open mic and a folk jam session at a seedy little neighborhood pub in North Cambridge, Massachusetts, called Dooley's. And the older guy is named Nathan Warren. He came very close to becoming a real national star, made the major label album. It was all ready to come out. Everybody said it was great. Then there was a staff shakeup at the label and the album never came out, which sends him into a decades-long depression, bout with alcohol. He's just starting to climb out of when the book begins, and he meets a young, ambitious songwriter named Kit Palmer, who's a great musician. She's a great songwriter, great singer, charismatic, dynamic, and in every other way imaginable, completely unprepared for a career in music. So that starts to bring them together. And this excerpt happens fairly early in the book. Kit Palmer is, like so many of the young folk musicians coming up today, she grew up in the traditional music world, playing Scottish fiddle, competing in fiddle contests and things. And then she took a look at what people do to be a songwriter, so she decides that doesn't have anything to do with being a folk singer-songwriter, so she takes up the guitar. Nathan gets her going to the jam again. And, well, here, let me be ready for this. What I'm going to do is he talks about a particular song in here and asks a question that all of us who have spent our lives in folk music have worried about at one time or another. I always put on my author glasses before I do this. I just wear these for effect. The effect is to see. Kit sat with a half-dozen jammers at a small table by the far end of the room. They had finished a tune and were laughing and talking in the time-honored way of the jam. Applause is considered bad form because it suggests a performance atmosphere. So after a tune, there's a period of idle chatter, sipping beers, laughing and shuffling chairs until somebody begins another tune. There is an unspoken order to all this, but nobody really knows what it is. It's simply the way it's always been since the first caveman noticed his neighbor beating on a rock, wandered over and said, "Hey, I got a stick too." A young guitarist in a faded Boston Celtics jersey, neatly trimmed beard stubble, and Martin guitar baseball cap suddenly began to sing a traditional cowboy song, Colorado Trail. Nathan walked closer, putting a finger over his lips when a few people started to say hi. He wanted to listen. Weep all ye falling rains, wail winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. You could almost hear the slow padding of horses and cattle in the easy gait of the song. It vaguely tells a story about a pretty girl named Laura whom the cowboy loves and misses. But the song never explains who she is or what's happened to her. She's simply gone away. As a young man, that drove Nathan crazy. He tried to learn the song a few times, but without knowing what happened to Laura, or even what her relationship was to the cowboy, he didn't know how to approach it. Now he thought those omissions were brilliant, because the song really isn't about Laura or even the lovelorn cowboy. It's simply about being alone in a lonely place and wishing that you weren't. Nathan certainly knew what that felt like. Bobbing his head lightly to the beat, Nathan closed his eyes and wondered what it was about sad songs that appeal to us so much. Do we like being sad? Even the up-tempo songs at the Jam were usually about train wrecks, dead mothers, ghastly murders, and ghostly lovers walking these hills in long black veils. Maybe it's like those actors who say they prefer playing villains because they're more interesting. Our dark feelings have more complex palettes. At least in art they do. But Nathan had learned that form usually follows function in traditional music. Perhaps our unhappy feelings are more in need of examining than our happy ones. Who needs to solve happiness? We need to understand the dark sides of life. That's where the dangers are. Why else would cowboys have sung all those sad love songs? It was the one time they could display their inner selves, explore their feelings, and share them with friends. And those deeper feelings need attention, even on a cattle drive. Leave them alone too long, unexamined and unexpressed, and they fester like an untreated wound. Maybe that's why Colorado Trail leads us away from the particulars about Laura and the cowboy. Laura becomes everybody's absent love, and the cowboy's loneliness becomes everybody's loneliness. And doesn't the simple act of sharing that in a song make us a little less lonely? Eyes like a morning star, cheeks like a rose. Laura was a pretty girl, everybody knows. Weep all ye falling rain, well winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail. Ride through the lonely night, ride through the day, keep that herd moving on its way. Weep all ye falling rains, well winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail. Ride through the stormy night, dark is the sky. Wish I'd stayed in Abilene, where it's mighty warm and dry. Weep all ye falling rains, well winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail. Oh, that sounds nice. Face like a prairie flower, laughing all the day. Laura was a pretty girl, now she's gone away. Weep all ye falling rains, well winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail, all along the Colorado Trail, all along the Colorado Trail. Face like a prairie flower, laughing all the day. Laura was a pretty girl, now she will we?